Welcome to our session on mechanical engineering with the University of Rochester. Good evening, or perhaps even good morning, depending on where you are around the world. My name is Zach. I'm an admissions counselor with the University of Rochester. I'm joined by a few of my colleagues who are going to be the ones leading our session this evening. I will mainly be in the background along with one of my colleagues, Brett, who will be here in case there are any more admissions related questions. But for the most part, this session will be specifically related to mechanical engineering. So we do want to make sure that you get all the information you need and all of your questions answered. You do have access in this webinar to a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So that's where we would like you to use to add all of your questions in. If there are questions that myself or Brett can answer, we will. Otherwise, we'll have them saved there for one of our many amazing faculty and students that are here joining us from mechanical engineering. So Professor Lambropoulos, Sarah, I'm not sure who wants to take over, but I will pass it over to you all. And once again, welcome to all of you and congratulations on being admitted to the University of Rochester. And I hope you have a great time with the mechanical engineering session.
Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, so hello everybody. My name is Sarah Wise. I am the undergrad coordinator. I am not sure why my video is not working, but if you guys can hear me, I will just keep going. We are going to do like a 20-25 minute presentation about the department, but before we get that started, I thought that the folks from mechanical engineering could go around and introduce themselves. So while you students are listening, you can maybe think if there's any particular questions you would like to ask these people. So I'm just going to go in the order of my screen. Helena, would you like to throw in your 2 cents?
Hi, my name is Helena. I am an undergraduate here at the University of Rochester. I'm a senior in mechanical engineering. Yeah, I guess I can also talk about what I've done so far in engineering here. I've been a TA for 5 semesters in a couple of different classes. I've also done research for a few semesters. And I'm also pretty involved in the American Society of Mechanical Engineers on campus. So we do some fun like social programming events for the mechanical engineering department, as well as some professional development things.
Thank you. John, would you like to share something about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is John Lambropoulos. I'm a faculty in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. I also have appointments in the program in material science in the Laboratory for Laser Energetics. I've taught at the university for many years. I've taught just about every course in the mechanical engineering undergraduate program. But perhaps my greatest distinction is that 2 of my children have graduated from U of R. So I've seen the university both as a parent and as a teacher. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions when we go to the Q&A session at the end of our presentation this afternoon.
Thank you, John. Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Slane. I'm also faculty in mechanical engineering. I teach some of the classes that you often take in your 1st and 2nd year. So I teach our statics class, which is our first required course in mechanical engineering. And also I'm teaching our programming course right now. And Helena has been in those courses and also TA'd for me many times, which has been really fun to be able to work with her.
And then finally, Renato.
Hello, my name is Renato Perucci. I'm a professor of mechanical engineering and also professor of biomedical engineering. And I also direct a interdisciplinary program that links engineering with the humanities, and it deals with archaeology, with architectural history, and with anthropology. My field of research is structural mechanics. Like Professor Lambropoulos, I've been here forever and ever. I love the university, and as part of my love is the fact that my 2 daughters have both graduated from the university, one in engineering and the other one in anthropology. So we have covered all the bases. And I'm looking forward to answering all the questions that you have about our department and our program, because I'm currently serving as the chair of the mechanical engineering department.
Yeah, so thank you to our panelists for coming. And again, as we go through the presentation, if there are particular questions you want to ask particular panelists, definitely do so in the chat. I'm still getting an error about turning my camera on, but that's okay. You don't need to see my face to listen to the presentation. So we will get started with that. Okay, so a surprising amount of times, as one of the primary advisors for the program, I have students ask me what mechanical engineering really is or what they're going to do with this degree. And I think the easiest way to answer that question is to show some of our most common employers. We generally have a few students every year who get positions with Lockheed Martin, L3 Harris, Boeing, the Navy's very popular. Xerox is local to Rochester, so that's one of the more popular local employers in the city. And then, of course, the amount of students we have going to grad school has been increasing, especially now with COVID making things a little unstable, not just in the job market, but in the housing market. So we have more and more students going to grad school. And then, of course, this what is mechanical engineering question is something that you will sort of refine for your personal interests as you go through the curriculum and learn more from your faculty and other advisors and other students, like what exactly mechanical engineering could be for you. Our goal, though, in general in this program is to use a foundation of basic science, applied mathematics, and engineering sciences to prepare well-trained, creative, and responsible engineers. And of course, our biggest goal is that our alumni will go out and become leaders and well-respected researchers in their field. So providing sort of the right courses and having the right questions asked in those courses to get you guys thinking far outside of just the box of college is sort of central to our mission. We do try to keep the program updated. So that's where this bullet point about latest software problems in solids and fluids, material science, mechanical systems, and advanced power applications. Those are all courses or topics in courses that you would take in your 4 years. And then, of course, we do have a variety of lab-based classes. The biggest series of them is the 240 and 241 series, which you would take in your junior year. Those both have long labs. We actually just finalized some of the 240 class because we were changing some elements of it, and that requires a 3-hour lab once a week. So you will spend some serious time in lab, really learning and applying the subjects. Okay, some quick facts, because I think this is the information that some of you guys are really hoping to get. So our general graduation rate for our major is 94% of our students will finish in 4 years. The remaining 6%, sometimes they're doing double majors, sometimes they take a leave of absence. There's always lots of different things normally happening with students who take extra semesters, but we do have about 26% of our students who manage to complete a minor on top of their major. We do have some double majors as well, not quite as common, but the most popular double major between Mecci and another department is business. Right now, I think we have about 10 double majors between Mecci and business, and they actually have their own group chat where they talk about classes and, probably debate what professors to take particular courses with. So we do try to connect those students who are sort of pursuing unusual academic paths so they can support each other and also find a little bit of sense of community. Another big thing that our department is focused on is research. The University of Rochester is an R1 institution, which means research is sort of central to our purpose and what we do here. The majority of your professors are probably active researchers with publications under their belt. But right now we're looking at our department with about $3 million annually in research grants, and 13% of our students are in paid research positions. We have students in unpaid research positions as well as for-credit research positions, but it's just not quite as common. Some demographic information that I think is important to understand coming into any school that you're looking at. For us, we have 23% international students, which is well above the national average. The University of Rochester in general has a very large international student population. We have 18% minority students, which is right around the national average, as well as 27% female students, again, near the national average. And then we also have 6 female faculty members, and Laura Slane is one of them here today, representing that side of our faculty. And finally, about 5 students study abroad each school year. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Pre-COVID, we were almost at like 10 students per school year, but that's gone down a little bit now. Hopefully we'll get that back up. That is one of the sort of goals that I have as an administrator, is to make study abroad accessible for students. And of course, John Lambropoulos is one of our faculty who deals a lot with preparing students to study abroad and, you know, evaluating credits at international institutions and things. So there's a lot of support in the department for getting you in those study abroad opportunities. Okay, but we also, like, what are we actually doing here? Essentially, we are trying to finish out students on our 2 ABET accredited majors. So ABET is the Advisory Board for Engineering Technology. They're essentially a professional organization that gives us a distinction saying that our program prepares engineers to succeed in modern industry. So this is an important professional distinction that can set you apart from some programs at other institutions. But we have 2 ABET accredited majors, mechanical engineering and geomechanics. We manage both of those programs. So even though they seem like slightly different subject matter, you would have, I would still be your administrative advisor, and you would still be connected to generally Mecci faculty advisors. We offer 5 minors, and we also do custom minors, not super often, but every few years there'll be a student who has a very like niche interest and it doesn't totally get covered by any of the 5 minors we offer, or they want to take some classes that aren't a part of these 5 minors. So we do work with students to create custom minors as needed and based off of their interests. And then we have a few additional academic opportunities. We have graduate courses that are available to our undergrads. So if you have some free space in your schedule as an upperclassman, we can put you in a graduate level course, which is a huge opportunity if you want to go to grad school. I mean, what better way to prove that you're capable than getting a good grade in a grad course in undergrad? But it's also been proving to be a really good opportunity for students who want to go into industry. It's really setting them apart from some of their peers. Not every school you look at allows their undergrads to take grad courses. So it is something that can be unique to the U of R. We also have a master's and PhD program. Right now, off the top of my head, I know of 2 or 3 students who graduated in like the 2020-2021 school year who are in our master's and PhD program. So we have some retention from undergrad to grad, but the majority of those students are coming in from international areas or across the country. And then we also have a program called Take 5, and that is really unique to the University of Rochester. It is a 5th year tuition-free year of study in a subject that is not related to your major. So if you were a mechanical engineer, you could do a Take 5 traditionally in something in the social sciences or humanities. And this program is really in the spirit of like Renaissance academia, just having a passion for knowledge and feeling like you didn't necessarily get to take all the classes or pursue all the paths that you wanted in the short 4 years of college. And that's something that students normally apply to in their sophomore and junior year. And they can apply more than once if their particular coursework they submit to the Take 5 committee isn't quite perfect for what they want to do or what the committee is looking for. So it's a big opportunity, and students who are really passionate about it can typically get in. But, you know, every year is different. Okay, so at a glance, I think a lot of times you'll go to little events like this, or you'll tour colleges and you'll get a lot of talk about the institution and all of these things, but you don't actually know like what classes you would take. It's just like a big hole in things that they talk about. So I thought we'd go through a little bit of what our curriculum is based off of. So your first like 2 years at U of R, you'll be in a fair amount of foundational courses. So that's math and chemistry and physics, those sort of like foundational subjects you need to understand upper level engineering. If you have AP credit in some of these classes, like if calculus or like physics, we will take and honor those credits so you can get a little bit ahead in the curriculum. But for the most part, you will be taking like a fair amount of foundational courses at the beginning. And then once you get that foundation under your belt, you move on to the mechanical engineering core courses. There's 16 of them in total, and they range in topic from heat and power application to fluid dynamics, intro to AutoCAD and design, computation, pretty much everything that you need to get out into industry and succeed, which is exactly what our ABET accreditation says that we do. And then throughout, sort of checkered through all of this, is a little collection of electives. We have a technical elective, which is just supposed to be a more hands-on engineering-based elective. So a good example of that is precision manufacturing, or we have some basic mechanical fabrication classes, things like that. We have the natural science elective, which is supposed to get you thinking like a scientist more like than an engineer. And there is definitely a difference there. And I think sometimes students push back on that, but thinking like a scientist in a traditional science discipline like biology or astronomy is the example here, is a little bit different than what you'll be doing in your standard engineering classes. We also have the humanities or social science cluster built into the elective system. Some of you may have heard about what the cluster system is if you've ever done a tour at the University of Rochester, but for those of you who are unfamiliar, we have something called the open curriculum here at U of R, which essentially means that we don't have like general academic like classes you have to take. So this would be very different than what you would find at a liberal arts college. So instead of requiring you to take so many courses in every standard subject like English, like, you know, the English majors are taking math classes and the math majors are taking English classes, we allow you to choose 3 courses of your choice in the humanities or social sciences that have some type of related topic instead of doing gen ed. So I was actually a student at the U of R. My clusters, I did 2 because I was an English major, but our mechanical engineers have so many engineering courses they have to take. They only do 1 cluster. But my clusters were in the advancement of medical technology, which was one I just sort of fell into by accident. And I took 2 history courses about essentially like groundbreaking vaccines, and 1 course on political science and sort of how medical technology changed the political scene. And then I also did a cluster in music in the mind, which was essentially brain and cognitive sciences married with some music theory courses. And that was what I took instead of having to do general education courses. And for me, that was fantastic. I never wanted to take a math class again after high school, and I didn't have to. And finally, we have some general electives built into the system. And the general electives are truly any class of any type in any discipline that you want to take. To get any degree at the University of Rochester, you have to complete 128 credits, but the requirements for Mecci only constitute 118. So there's just 10 credits that we need you to make up somehow in any course of your choice. And finally, we have 2 standardized writing and communication courses that our student takes. One is Writing 105, which is essentially an intro to collegiate writing course. There are normally about 40 sections offered every single year in different topics. So if the idea of taking a writing course saddens you, rejoice over the fact that you will probably get to learn about some very interesting niche subject. Some of my favorites that they offered last semester were Princess in the Castle, analyzing feminism in modern day video games. There was also a much more serious one on like the ethics of medicine and engineering. So if you're not looking to like read comic books the whole semester and play video games, you can also be in a much more serious section. So there's sort of a huge range. Most of those courses are taught by English and history PhD students. So they're like, depending on what the interest of the current PhD populace, the topics change every year. But you also get some really enthusiastic professors who that's the first course they've ever taught. So they're just fun. And then the one communication course we have is Writing 273. That is a professional communication course that's supposed to prepare you to do resumes, do interviews, and just sort of make sure that you're ready to go out there and maybe get your first internship or your first job. What the typical first year schedule is. So, you know, I can talk generals about what the curriculum is built on and block it into sections, but it's not the same as just getting a real schedule. So the majority of students who aren't coming in with AP credit are going to be taking Intro to Calculus, Calc 1 class, Chemical Principles for Engineers, their writing class, and a technical elective of choice. However, the majority of our students will take ME 104, the Engineering of Bridges, which is typically taught by Renato Perucci, who's here with us today. And then your second semester, you would continue in calculus, start physics, get into your first real Mecci class, which is Engineering Mechanics 1, often taught by Laura Slane, who's also here with us today. And you would get to start your cluster. So I just picked a random class that I found that it constitutes a cluster, English 117, Intro to the Art of Film. You would take 2 more film courses for this particular cluster, which is the History of Cinema. And if you were interested in looking at what the rest of your semesters are, there is a tiny link nested in this presentation, and I will be publishing this presentation to you all via email after our session ends tonight. Okay, if you're in college, you are probably doing more than just going to class and going home. There are some students who that's how they go through their 4 years of college, but a lot of them are also in clubs or other groups. So the University of Rochester in general has over 250 clubs, and as well as fraternities and sororities. Last I heard, the percentage of Greek like fraternity and sorority students was hovering in like the mid-teens for us. It's normally around 20%, but it's been going down, especially in Northeastern colleges, as I think the culture changes and less students are interested in Greek life. But we do have fraternities and sororities for those of you who maybe had a parent who was involved and want to check it out, or, you know, anybody who really wants to join. But most of our Mecci students are in like Mecci or engineering specific extracurricular groups. So the most popular is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. That's actually a group that our department manages. And one of our faculty sort of works with that group to make it happen. Helena Schroeder, also here with us, is involved, so she can talk more about what ASME is like for students. But they do some big programming that is popular across campus. My personal favorite is the pumpkin launch, which is something that happens in October. One of the like quad areas at the university is pretty much cleared out and taped off so that they can launch pumpkins on trebuchets, and everybody stands around with like hot chocolate and cider and like cheers when the pumpkins explode into thousands of pieces. And it's all sorts of people from all over campus, because like who doesn't want to see things get smashed? So people who are like walking to and from class will stop and just stand there, and then the next thing you know, there's like a few hundred people all like cheering and whooping and like 20-degree Rochester fall. It's pretty fun. And then they also do the roast, which happens in the spring, which is when our graduating senior class roasts the current faculty and staff, which I think is fun for some of us and not for others. It depends on the year. Some other popular clubs we have is Society of Women Engineers, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. So we have a lot of identity specific engineering clubs, which is really important for students coming in from diverse backgrounds to feel some representation and support. We also have Solar Splash. They do solar powered like submarines and like boats, and essentially they take them up to Irondequoit Bay or other like large bodies of water around Rochester and compete against other organizations. We have Baja. They are working on welding and creating like racing vehicles. A robotics team. They are doing all sorts of different stuff every semester based off of like what people's interests are at the given, time in the semester. And then of course, a lot of the students are doing the paid research I mentioned earlier. And then on average, we have about 40 to 50 teaching assistants at an undergraduate level that support all of the courses we're running, and those are paid positions too. So normally when students are like sophomores and juniors, they would start applying to be a teaching assistant, and that gives you a really nice chance to get to know a professor a little bit better. And if you're looking to go to grad school and get recommendations or anything like that, it's a really good way to start sort of deepening the relationships you have with your professors. Okay, our advising model. it's another thing that makes the U of R a little bit unique. You would have 3 different advisors. One of them, your undergrad coordinator, that's me. I do all of the degree tracking and like administrative end of the advising. So I'm the one who's sort of making sure that you're on track, that you're passing your classes, that you're getting your prereqs done. And I'm sort of an expert on the ins and outs of what courses are available. So I'm around honestly, all year long. Sometimes students ask me if I get to take the summer off, and that's not the case. So any time of the year, you can send me an email about what's going on with your academic progress if you need to talk to someone. You also have a faculty advisor. So that is a Mecci professor who can give mentoring and research and career advice. I am not a mechanical engineer. As I mentioned, I got my undergrad degree in English and I'm in a master's program for higher education counseling. So I don't know what it's like to work in engineering industry or to go to grad school for engineering. So that's where your faculty advisor comes in to really give you an insider's perspective on what your options are, what the career is, and also give you some more insider information on courses you may be considering as people who are more familiar with the subject matter. And then finally, you'll have a generalized advisor provided through the College Center for Academic Advising Services, CCAS. They're one of the larger centers at the University of Rochester, and they are familiar with all the different programs. So if you were to come in and switch your major, they would help you get connected to a new major or figure out like classes you could take that would balance maybe being unsure. So like Mecci classes, but maybe you're considering switching to, I don't know, chemical engineering. They would kind of put together a blended schedule for you until you know exactly where you're going in your future semesters. These are our current first year advisors and sort of some of the research that they do. So I mentioned earlier that the University of Rochester is an R1 institution. So what that means is truly that the majority of the professors you have are doing like pretty high level research in some capacity. So Professor Kelly is in biophysical and technological fluid mixing. Professor Sefcow does multi-physics modeling with the laser lab for energetics. So that is a separate sort of the laser lab is government funded. It's associated with the University of Rochester, but if any of you have like even remote interest in lasers or high energy density physics, you should definitely check out the laser lab. It's a very cool thing that we have here at U of R. And a lot of our students do research there too. So lots of opportunities. And then also our first year advisor right now is Professor Jessica Sheng, and she does experimental fluid dynamics. Here are some common questions. Will I receive credit for my AP or IB coursework? Possibly. It depends on your scores and how you received the credit. But for the most part, if you took a standard like AP or IB, like calc or physics class, you can receive credit. There is a whole page on one of the university websites that will break down all of the common AP and IB exams and what score you would need to have it transferred to the U of R. So if that's something you're concerned about, that is available on our website. This is a very premature question, but we will tell you what math class to register for based off of performance on an entrance exam or your AP credits. When can I contact my advisors? Anytime. As I said, I am a 365-day-a-year worker. So you can email me in the dead of summer and get an answer. Okay, are you required to get an engineering laptop to go here? Nope. There are some laptop recommendations available from the university IT webpage, but for the most part, you can get by with the standard laptop. And if there's a program that you need to run or something that your standard laptop can't handle, we have computer labs all over campus that have all of that software and hardware installed. We do not expect, like as an institution, you are not expected to spend like $800 on an AutoCAD software that you're going to use for one semester. Those are all available in the computer lab, so you can use them as needed. Another question, can I study abroad? Yes. Like I said, we have 5 students right now who are studying abroad. It might be more this semester. I think there is more this semester, but we have a handful every single year. Most of our students will go abroad their junior fall, but sometimes it's in other semesters, and the majority go to IES Madrid. So they spend their semester in Spain, and then ever so often we'll have some students who go to Auckland, New Zealand. Those ones students seem to be more interested in hiking than studying, but nonetheless. And finally, can I double major, pick up a minor? Absolutely. 26% of our students have minors, and the double major, there's a lot of students who come in who want a double major and then just decide that Mecci is enough. But that's absolutely something that we can talk about if you're interested in that. And of course, business, you'd be right in the group chat if you wanted to double major in Mecci and business. Okay, so since we're virtual today, we're going to end our little presentation here with some pictures. Here's the Hoban Engineering Building. I am sitting in this building right now. On the top right-hand or left-hand corner, I'm bad at left and right, is a little window with a blind. That's the room I'm sitting in as we speak. This is Raga Diaz. He was in the Time 100 last year for his work for room temperature superconductors, and he is one of our faculty who teaches classes and is also just sometimes at the water cooler, which is, for me personally as an administrator, I think it's amazing to be able to know people who could potentially like change the basic nature of technology. And also, it's very humbling to be a student or a staff or even a fellow faculty member and work with truly brilliant individuals who are so kind. And that's something you do get afforded at an R1 research institution. And there are a lot of people other than Raga Diaz doing really cool stuff. But he was in the Time 100, so he gets to be in the PowerPoint. Here's some pictures of students from across the few years. These two students that are standing in front of this wall of balloons, they're going to a formal together. I'm not sure for what organization, but they were both Mecci students. A formal is normally like everybody puts on their best outfit at the end of the semester and there's like a big celebratory party. They have those for Greek life. They have them for small clubs. I was on the student newspaper in college, and we had a formal at the end of every semester. And it always just like warmed my heart that these two chose to go together. They met in engineering mechanics 1, Mecci 120, their freshman year, and they just became really good friends. These girls who all have their feet hanging around in the air, they are in a room in Lecce, which is the Warner School of Education building here. It's a graduate school, but they would steal one of the rooms after the Warner School of Education professors stopped teaching every evening and have like a 2-hour study night. And they did this for years. This was their last study night. They sent me a picture like 2 weeks before the school year ended, before they graduated, celebrating all their years together, working on their different engineering projects. And then the last picture, we had a large amount of varsity swimmers in the Mecci class of 2020. We actually had 4 varsity swimmers. And that is something students ask me sometimes, if you can manage varsity athletics and a major as rigorous as mechanical engineering. And the answer is absolutely yes. There are many, many students who are currently varsity athletes in all different sports teams, football. We have a lot of football students. We also have a fair amount of soccer players. But of course, there's like rowing, swimming, and all the other varsity sports that we have at U of R. And there are a few Meccis probably from a lot of those sports teams. Here's the Baja group. So Baja, again, they build and compete with vehicles. They send out a Christmas card every year. This was one of their Christmas cards recently, and I just think it's so charming that they sent out a Christmas card. It's actually a physical Christmas card. It's always in my mailbox, and it reminds me of being a little kid with my mom and like getting Christmas cards sent to us from different families. And then here's just a little wall of links. Everything I spoke about today can pretty much be found online. So if there's something you wanted to learn a little bit more about, but you're not sure exactly where to go to find it, once I distribute this PowerPoint, you can check out any of these links. And then finally, here's my contact information, as well as Renato, since he is the department chair. I will linger on this screen just for a second in case anyone is writing this down. And then we will go ahead with our question and answer. So now is a great time to put your questions in the chat. If there aren't a lot of questions coming in, I will just invent some discussion prompts that we can all speak on, and hopefully that will generate some questions. I'm going to try to turn my video on. I'm still getting an error. It's okay. My picture's on the website if you're ever so curious. It worked for the first like few minutes I came in the chat, but oh well. Okay.
Sarah, let me just make a small correction in your presentation that we've had students study abroad in Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, England, Spain, Ireland, Peru, I believe. So quite a few countries. So we're covering just about every continent.
We even have a special program that deals with engineering and archaeology in Ghana.
In
that is really absolutely unique program.
Yeah,
that we run jointly with other departments.
Okay, thanks guys. I don't see any study abroad related questions in here right now, but there is one that I think Helena could answer pretty well. It's, do you have to go into the Mecci major if you're thinking about it, or how important is it for you to sort of declare Mecci from your first semester?
It's not really vital that you declare it from your first semester. I think in my experience, like your very first year in undergrad is going to be a lot of like fulfilling prerequisites. So that's when you do like all your physics classes and calculus classes. So if you come in not really sure what you want to do and you decide to start taking classes in another major and then later decide that you want to go through and do Mecci, that's something that's pretty easy to switch around in.
Yeah, as the administrative advisor, so I'm the person who helps students switch majors, we can normally get students into the major like as late as their sophomore fall, assuming that they were in another related major. So if you were to switch in from history to Mecci, it would be a little difficult because you probably weren't taking any of those foundation science courses. But if you sort of have an idea that you want to do engineering, it's pretty easy to switch in between engineering disciplines and even some other natural science disciplines for the first like 2 or 3 semesters that you're here. So I think we got through. Okay, here's a good one. Do many undergrads have the opportunity to work in a Mecci research lab in their first year? So I think that can be a more broad discussion about how working in research labs sort of functions. Is there anyone who wants to share their experience working in a lab or having students in a lab?
I can start by saying that I would say the majority, if not all of our faculty have undergraduate students that work in their labs, and in some cases they start from the sophomore year and go on and continue. We support them with not only during the academic year but also during the summer, and they end up making substantial contributions. They publish paper, they go to conferences, they really have, and that's obviously a great enhancement of their trajectory towards graduate studies or even for employment. And we can find them not only in labs in mechanical engineering, but also in multidisciplinary labs in biomedical engineering, in optics, in the medical school. As Sarah mentioned before, we have this phenomenal institution, which is the Laboratory for Lasers and Energetics, and we have undergraduate students that work there. So there is a large number of opportunities that are available. At the same time, many students also, as was indicated before, serve STAs in our courses, which is also a great opportunity, not only to get to know and work very closely with the faculty, but also to really take control of a particular course and a particular subject. So really, there is plenty of opportunity in both areas.
Thanks, Renato. Would anybody like to add on to that?
I could add something, and that is when it comes to research, one approach is for a student to work with a faculty member. Now, a typical faculty member will have an established research program, which means therefore that the student is obligated to work on a project sort of directed by the faculty member. But there's another possibility, and that is that if a student has an idea for a possible research project for which there's no faculty member with a research lab working on that project, then the student can actually sign up for a research course that is supervised by a faculty member. So it's a joint sort of research enterprise. It is not part of a, let's say, an existing research laboratory. But if a student has an idea on a project that could be supervised by a faculty member, the student can sort of propose that and works one-on-one with the faculty member to actually do that. So both are possible, either student-driven research or most usually faculty-driven research.
As a follow-up to that, I thought it might be nice to hear from Helena how she specifically got involved and what her experience was. And probably you can answer that question as well that just came in.
Yeah, so I got involved in research my junior year, and that was specifically because I had contacted the person I worked with, Professor Kelly, about working there. But I know of some sophomores, one of my friends, Jared, he contacted Professor Kelly sometime his sophomore year, just sent him like a cold email, like, hey, I'm interested in your work. If you have any openings? And he got a position doing research from that. And I know of a lot of sophomores who have done similar things, or just anyone getting into research have done similar things. And I think specifically the original question was asking about your first year getting involved. I will say I don't think that's as common, but I do know of someone who does research and she started her first year here. So it is something that you can do if you really search that out. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then the other question was in the chat. Yes, there are opportunities to stay on campus during the summer. I worked in the summer doing research this past summer. In terms of after your first year, I'm not exactly sure. I think I have seen some like incoming sophomores doing research after their first year. Maybe someone else who's worked with them might have a better idea.
The undergraduate have the opportunity of being sponsored for research during the summer. And this is actually either done to existing research projects, or they can apply to the Office for Undergraduate Research to get a scholarship. And for many years, we have had scholarships that have supported students, giving them 2 semesters of salary and offering them and covering all the residential costs. That has been extremely effective because students get really interested, especially between the sophomore and the junior year. They get interested into a project, so they will continue then during the junior year and the senior year. So indeed, there is quite a bit of opportunities to remain on campus during the summer.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes those opportunities just sort of happen by accident. In my first year working here, I had a student come to me who was concerned because they were struggling to pay their bills and they had like 4 tiny jobs. And they were like, I can't do this anymore. Like, please tell me you know of something. And I connected him with a faculty who was able to, a faculty member who was able to sort of find something for him to do in that research lab. And now he's been working there for 3 years. So you never know, like, what conversation you have with someone or what email you send will sort of lead to a position or even grad school. It's interesting. The older you get, the more you find that like life is a strange nonlinear journey. And sometimes it's just meeting the right person at the right time. So we haven't gotten any more questions in the chat, but I thought I'd just throw out a general one, which is to everybody, our panelists. What is something that you love about the University of Rochester that makes this place like special to you, or has made you want to spend, in some cases, like John and Renato, 30 years here? Whoever wants to start.
I'm happy to go first. I can talk a little bit since I'm newer here. What I think is really unique about the University of Rochester is its size. I think you have the potential to get sort of the best of both worlds. So I have been at a small private undergraduate university, really small before. I've been at a huge research university before, and I think this is sort of nicely in the middle. So you have the opportunity to get to know the faculty better. It's smaller group of you that are going through in your coursework as an undergraduate. But on the other hand, you also do have those research opportunities. So we take a lot of undergrads in research because we have a lot of opportunities for but we're doing really, really cool research that's really making an impact internationally. That's impactful. So I think that's kind of a unique position that we sit in, where you can get sort of the benefits of the smaller school with some of those clubs and things like that, but also the benefits of being at a top tier research institution as well. And that's what I was interested in, why I came here as a faculty member, so I could really be focused on teaching, but also have all of those resources that we get because we have a medical school, we have the LLE, all sorts of other stuff like that.
If I may add to what Laura just said, and I totally subscribe to that. There is also an additional aspect. We have an outstanding engineering program in not only mechanical engineering, but I would say exactly the same for all the other engineering departments. But also we have an outstanding university. So this is not simply a technical school. So this means that there are really incredible opportunities for our students to expand beyond the purely technical education. And as Sarah indicated before, we have a unique opportunity in the Take 5 program for those students who want to explore something that is really important to them, an area that perhaps in medieval English literature or in the origin of Hinduism, and they want to take the time. Then the university offers this incredibly good opportunity of presenting a program, and if accepted, and the rate of acceptance is actually very high, and the students that produce these programs are actually very good students, then to stay and explore in different directions. And let me also add, we have a fantastic theater program. Just it doesn't happen very often that the engineering school has a theater program of the caliber that we have. Many of our undergraduates have worked in the technical, and not only in the technical roles within the theater program. So it's a very, very rich, very active, very vibrant environment. As Laura said, it has the right size. It's not a small school, it's not a large school, and it's really a fantastic university.
No, I would add, Sarah, that the quality of teaching both within the department and the School of Engineering is extremely high. The quality of teaching, and this is very important for, especially for the younger students. Certainly for all students, of course. All our courses are taught by faculty members. All the faculty members are involved to different extents with research, and also our faculty members advise our undergraduate students. Therefore, the students get information about careers and possibilities in graduate school from faculty members who are fully involved with these kind of aspects of professional life. So I think that it goes back to the point that Laura, Professor Slane was making before, that the size at the University of Rochester is just about right for students to have full access to the teaching by faculty, being advised by faculty who are involved with research. And there's a lot of infrastructure, such as the medical center, the laboratory for laser energetics, the theater program, the School of Education, the business school, and so on and so forth.
The one thing that I really love about the mechanical engineering department at U of R is how much each of the professors care about their students and what they will do for their students to see them succeed and to grow. So as I mentioned, I've done research for a while. I stayed over the last summer to work on my research. And out of all that work, I was able to publish a paper, which is not a common experience for an undergrad. And I'm very grateful to the professor I worked with, Professor Kelly, as well as the postdoc in the lab that I was working with, because after I did like all my data analyzing and collecting, they easily could have taken that information and spent like a month writing up a paper and submitting that. But instead, they let me spend like the entire summer working on that paper myself. And they went through the whole revision process with me and like took my kind of poorly written draft and helped me revise that and make it sound good. And then we were able to publish a paper through that. And I've also had great experiences TAing, particularly with Professor Slane. The same thing last summer. I was working with her, helping on like course development stuff. And that was a great experience because I got to like write problems for our MATLAB class that we teach. And it was great to get that experience to work through and make those problems. Now it's like helping me go into a career, going to get my PhD, and hopefully I'll be in a career eventually where I get to teach again. But a lot of those things I think would have been easier done by the professors, but they really wanted us and me to get that experience of doing that work myself. And that's really helped me grow. And I'm very grateful to all of them for that.
I would add that the research that Helena worked on and the paper she published, she was the lead author, the first author on that paper, and she published it in what is likely the best journal of its kind in the world. So that's a very unique accolade, and you shouldn't be shy about such an accomplishment, Helena.
And Helena is a great example of one of the reasons I chose to stay here. Like, I graduated and then chose to stay. And I think that really says something about the community that the U of R has. But I found that there are a lot of really passionate students doing like wild and uncommon things. Like for Helena, publishing a paper at an undergraduate level, that's like truly unheard of. Like most undergraduates will never even come close to the level of being able to publish their own paper. And like I had some friends when I was in school who took like one of the basic mechanical fabrication courses so that they could get access to the labs, and then spent 4 years creating custom guitars with the lathe and access to like the wood suppliers that they sold on Etsy for fun. And we also have like a really great audio music engineering program here. So I was good friends with these guys in like a funk band who still come back like every few years to play concerts in like the neighborhood across from the university. That's like where most of the students live. So there are just so many like passionate people here. And it's not competitive. I feel like everyone is really into what they do, and they're just so happy to share that it sort of goes beyond like a competitive spirit, and it turns into sort of like a kumbaya academic setting. And I really like that. And I also just think our campus is beautiful. For those of you who haven't had an opportunity to visit, absolutely, if you can, come here. I saw this place as a home when I toured so many years ago. I had gone to a lot of schools where I couldn't really imagine myself being there. And I think prospective students especially, you got to remember that you're not just going to go to class at the University of Rochester. You are going to live here. You are going to have like heartbreaks and great opportunities and closed doors, and you'll drop balls, and like so much will happen. There'll be clubs, like you're going to live in this place, and it's a beautiful place to live. It's definitely cold, as many of you know, but I personally love the snow. But I think the university really has a familial sort of vibe with all of these passionate, open people in such a beautiful place that it just made sense for me to stay. And that's my spiel. But we got another Q&A question. Which is, what is the culture like at U of R, and what would you change if you had to change something about the culture?
I think I would echo Sarah's point of people really like building each other up and wanting each other to succeed. My favorite part about being here is just the collaborative nature of it. I know Sarah showed a couple of pictures of like friends that she had known that were all Meccis. I've had a group of friends in mechanical engineering, and I've been friends with them since freshman year, and that's been great. We work on all of our assignments together. We are in project groups together. We study for exams together. And we're all just like really there to build each other up. And I think something that I would change about U of R, if I had to change something, I will say I spend many of my weekends doing work and studying, and that's probably true of a lot of engineering programs. And I do enjoy doing the work and studying. That's something that's fun to me. But I think that that's one of the things that I would change about University of Rochester. Maybe just a culture where people took more free time, if I was being very honest.
Alina, when you were talking about peers being friends, aren't there groups and stuff where you have class
Yeah.
slacks and stuff like that?
Yeah, so our class here has a group me, and that has every senior in mechanical engineering who wants to be in it, but there are about 60 people and there are about 60 people in our class. So that's something that's been huge for our class, and it's great to keep everyone connected. I know every single person in my mechanical engineering class, and I've had class with them for all 4 years. So that's been another great thing, that even though it is a big class, like I know everyone, and it makes work a lot easier because if you know everyone, if you're kind of friends with everyone, it makes it a lot easier to work with them, and it makes it a lot more fun.
Well, and it sounds to me from what I've heard, it's very inclusive. So you folks are on there sharing, like, when is that assignment due or things like that, which I think is really nice that everybody's included in that.
Inclusive is a good word, I think, to use in context of the University of Rochester. It's a very politically progressive institution in a like historically politically progressive place. At the local like cemetery here, we have like Susan B. Anthony, like women's suffrage. Like Rochester, New York was a huge place for women's suffrage. It was also Frederick Douglass's grave is here. It was, you know, like racial equality was sort of like a lot of these huge movements started in this little pocket of New York. And I think you can see that in the city. Like when you drive through the city, you will find a lot of houses flying like political justice flags. And that's sort of just like ingrained in the culture, I think, of this entire area, which I think pushes this institution to be better. I think it's really cool.
But to go back to the question that was asked, what is life like? I think we addressed that, but what would one change? I think that we can never be too inclusive, and we can never be too diverse. So I think that having sort of goals of being more inclusive and being more diverse, both in the department level and at the university level and at the school level, I think these are important goals. Of course, these goals are not accomplished overnight or in a finite amount of time. We have to keep on evolving, so to speak. But I think that this is an important part that I wish we could do things faster.
So we are just at about our 1 hour mark. So I thought if there's any like final comments or like parting words that any of you would like to share that maybe our prospective students could keep in mind, and then we'll go our separate ways. Anybody?
Sarah, do the participants of the webinar have our contact information, emails, if they have any sort of questions after the end of the webinar or Zach, if parents or students have our contact information for any follow-up questions?
When I send out the PowerPoint slide, I can make sure to add John, Helena, and Laura's contact information, just in case anyone has questions that they would like to ask.
And all complaints can be addressed to Professor Perucci.
Yes.
In Italian, though, otherwise they will not be answered.
I'm just joking, Renato. I'm just joking.
Yeah, so we really appreciate everybody's time and interest in our program, and we hope to see you here in the fall. You'll start getting emails from me in like July if you enroll. Do not hesitate to ask us questions. It is a very hard decision picking where you want to go to school, and I think all of us can relate to that and are more than happy to help. So take advantage of who's here and the resources you have, and good luck in your college journey.